Power coiled around as he tested the martial techniques now taking shape within him. A radiant sphere rested in his palms, casting clear light across the room. Watching the shifting colors, felt an unexpected thought begin to form. Energy crackled at his fingertips before he drove a concentrated blast forward. The glowing sphere left him fascinated by the depth of the technique hidden within it. His eyes brightened as he recognized the power of martial master's will. With explosive force gathering around him, he prepared to try the technique again. The imposing image before him stood unshaken, like a guardian formed from pure resolve. Crystal light shone overhead, while power surged upward from beneath his feet. As that force rooted him to the ground, he thought of immovable and absolute. Energy burst outward, scattering debris as fixed his attention on the target ahead. Even an ordinary stone pulsed faintly when his will poured into it. In his hands, the stone glowed like a coal awakened by fire. Sensed that he could absorb more kinds of will, yet some unseen boundary held him back. The thought unsettled him. If conflicting forces accumulated inside his body, reaching the martial master realm might cost him everything he had built. Symbols drifted through the mist around him as he considered how deeply a martial master's will shaped every breakthrough. Beneath a star-filled sky, wondered what he must accomplish before attempting that realm. At last, he made his decision. He would find a martial path that belonged to him alone. Rather than keep turning the problem over in his head, went outside to clear his thoughts. The lively city felt unfamiliar in its ease. He had hardly ever walked its streets simply for pleasure. Following a sudden impulse, called out and moved toward the sound ahead. Nearby, two old men argued cheerfully over a board game, one urging Old to finish before dinner while watched in silence. The colored pieces on their board reminded him of the clashing martial masters' wills inside him. Curious, placed two round pieces together and studied how their shapes overlapped. The old men laughed over their game, unaware that their simple play had startled him with an idea. Stared at the pieces, the outline of a solution beginning to emerge. Soon hunger interrupted his thoughts, leaving him outside a small restaurant with no idea what he wanted to eat. He finally took a seat and ordered a bowl of. The cheerful waiter shouted his and hurried to prepare it. From inside the shop, a mother warned the children not to sit too close to the television and glanced over at their carefree evening. For a moment, he imagined the day he would leave Marshall St. University and return to an ordinary home like this. The waiter set down a steaming bowl and accepted it with immediate anticipation. As his thoughts aligned, a circular formation seemed to take shape above his hands, hinting at a perfected martial art. Eating between flashes of insight, wondered whether different martial masters' wills could be combined, then ordered 5 more bowls. The waiter laughed that martial artists frequented his stall and often finished 20 bowls in one sitting. Praised the noodles sincerely and promised he would visit again. Amused, the waiter added a fried egg and joked that next time should bring his girlfriend. The fresh bowl, now crowned with the egg, looked almost too perfect to disturb. Holding his chopsticks above it, paused, captivated by the harmony of its shape. Then he broke into the meal with a satisfying crunch, savoring both the food and the thought it inspired. On the television, a heroic figure stood amid flames, while a monstrous creature breathed fire behind him. A bespectacled boy cheered that the demon had fallen, and that was unbeatable. A pigtailed girl argued passionately that Frost's form was the strongest of all. On screen, the hero shifted between fire and frost as he announced the powers he would unleash. Froze at the idea that 2 opposing forms could belong to a single complete power. An image of overwhelming strength rose in his mind, fierce enough to swallow everything around it. He rose from his seat and strode toward the restaurant counter, ignoring the people passing by. With sudden appetite and purpose, ordered 4 more bowls of. He told his companion that the unassuming noodle shop was surprisingly excellent. Across from him, the blue-haired girl lowered her eyes to her phone, lost in her own thoughts. explained that after becoming a rank 2 martial artist, both his appetite and energy consumption had soared. The blue-haired youth beside her rested his chin on his hand, unable to follow strange line of thought. Pointed toward a broad-shouldered diner and remarked that the man's appetite was even more astonishing than his own. Then he returned to his noodles with enthusiasm, treating each bite like a reward. Even while eating, kept refining the martial art forming within his mind. At last, he held up the bowl as though it had revealed the final secret of his technique. In his imagination, a blazing attack erupted with ferocious force. The bowl toppled and spilled across the floor, wrenching back to reality. He stared at the ruined meal, stunned by the revelation it had triggered. The perfect arrangement he had seen in the bowl finally gave his incomplete martial path a clear shape. Only one question remained: what color should represent the martial art that belonged to him? Ice was blue and flame was red. Each power carried its own unmistakable color. He thought of the yellow force he had absorbed and wondered where it belonged within the whole. Then gray came to mind, a color of mystery, uncertainty, and countless possibilities. Yet groaned at the absurd challenge of creating perfection from every power he had touched. Being rank 6 did not make him omnipotent. Power churned restlessly around him as he wondered how he could make all those wills coexist. Suddenly, his eyes widened as the missing answer struck him. Raised a fist in triumph, unable to contain his excitement. At the table, he spoke seriously about someone's behavior while the uneaten dishes sat between them. Then he cast a wary sideways glance at the unexpected person standing nearby. The blue-haired girl smiled at an image of, amused and clearly impressed by him. In the picture, struck a bold pose, overflowing with confidence in his own strength. Her companion noticed her distraction and demanded to know who had caught her attention. The name was spoken aloud with a weight that instantly sharpened the mood. Elsewhere, adjusted his psychic perception and focused on the light pouring through the window. He began drawing his different powers together, the aura around him growing steadily brighter. A gentle warmth settled over him, unfamiliar yet strangely natural. Cold and heat intertwined inside his body as the new martial art transformed him from within. Mana poured out of in torrents, but his vitality grew stronger as the second stage of the immortal golden body awakened and vast power flooded through him. In his inner world, rain hammered down as he plunged into deep water without hesitation. Drenched and struggling to breathe, felt as though an invisible weight were dragging him beneath the surface. An icy strike suddenly tore toward him, and he realized with shock that one of the wills inside him had turned hostile. He answered with roaring flame, forcing back the threat before it could overwhelm him. Rain fell through his mental world while rival wills collided, each fighting to dominate the others. Trapped between three opposing forces, nearly laughed in despair at the madness unfolding inside his own mind. Still, a fierce smile rose on his face as he gripped the power that could unite them. He commanded every competing will to turn its attention toward him. Stretching out his hand, declared that he would forge them into the foundation of his own martial path. No inherited strength, he vowed, would surpass the power he created for himself. Colors swirled around him in a vast abstract tide as his resolve settled into certainty. Released his power, shaping all those wills into the base of his perfected martial art. If the conflicting wills refused to cooperate, he ordered them to surrender their power to him instead. Three immense presences towered in the void, raging and terrified as stood before them without retreating. He concentrated every strand of energy into a single overwhelming wave. The attack burst through the water, sending a violent shock across his inner ocean. Emerging triumphant, laughed that even martial masters would be left speechless by what he had created. A radiant formation flared around him as he celebrated the success of his completed path. Filled with renewed confidence, he declared that his martial intent now shone like a star. At the university, the vice principal sat at his desk, quietly occupied with official papers. His hand hovered over a document as he considered the decision placed before him. Across the desk, the serious administrator released a powerful aura that stirred the room. Clenched his fist and called out, startled by the force pressing toward him. Seeing Vice Principal rise abruptly, he asked what had happened as the older man hurried away. Vice Principal said he needed to speak with about the alarming changes in his strength. Suddenly sensed a rank 7 spiritualist nearby and turned his full attention toward the hidden presence. A dark tower surrounded by curling purple energy filled his thoughts, making him briefly question his next step. With his back turned, surveyed the floating debris and turbulent power around him. His psychic perception had advanced far beyond rank 6, connecting him vividly to everything nearby, though he still could not be sure he had reached rank 7. Determined to find out, prepared to test the perfected martial art he had created. Blazing energy wrapped around him as he shifted into the breath of the earth. At his command, fragments of stone lifted from the ground and hovered in the air. He followed with the frost halberd, unleashing a sweeping wave of freezing power. The breath of frost answered magnificently, revealing far greater potential than before. Then gathered flame into his hands, ready to test another branch of his mastery. Clenching his fist amid the fire, he wondered whether his new power was enough to challenge a grand martial master. The overwhelming aura around him filled him with exhilaration, though he knew such a display might invite unwanted challengers. His attention shifted when he noticed two figures quarreling in the distance. Outside the imposing entrance, an angry youth shoved another aside until an authority figure reminded them where they were standing. Survival froze both of them, his oppressive aura instantly turning their anger into panic. He looked at their pale faces and calmly asked whether they had come searching for him. The pair hurried forward and reported that the vice principal urgently wanted to see him. Thanked them for the message and announced that he would go there first. Even after he turned away, one frightened student could barely breathe under the lingering pressure of his presence. When arrived, an official began by announcing a reward impressive enough to catch his interest. The older man continued carefully while sat in silence and absorbed every word. Stared at him in disbelief, struggling to understand what he had just heard. He demanded to know how graduation could possibly require such an absurd number of points. Checking his phone, listened as the older man sighed over the university's relentless standards. The exchange list only deepened his frustration when he saw the outrageous price of a rank 6 mutated marrow tonic. He nearly spat out his drink before asking whether the university even stocked rank 7 mutated marrow tonics. The older man reached out quickly, sensing exactly where questions were leading. Surprise sharpened when he heard that his martial master intent had already fully taken form. He understood that his vitality still needed refinement and that the immortal golden body had to be completed. Even with his progress, the road toward true martial mastery remained heavy with danger. Asked how difficult it was to obtain a rank 7 mutated marrow tonic, only to hear about rare supply, strict approval, and endless paperwork. The image of a terrifying beast flashed through his mind, reminding him what kind of power such an elixir represented. The gray-haired mentor warned that a rank 7 elixir could ravage both mind and body if consumed carelessly. Then he revealed the real news. A martial saint was willing to accept as a disciple, provided he passed one final test. Studied the brown envelope handed to him, unsure what sort of test it concealed. When he learned that he had to take first place in a tournament, he wondered incredulously whether that was truly meant to test him. The administrator explained that this was a nationwide martial arts tournament filled with the strongest young competitors. He warned that rival academies possessed exceptional disciples and resources far beyond what had faced before. As considered the tournament, he felt the full weight of the choice now resting on his shoulders. Then he opened the envelope and froze. Inside was an SSS rank mission. If you'd like to see your favorite titles retold, leave a comment and I'll be sure to pick some of them up from time to time. Also, let me know which video format you like, more long videos or short ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you again soon.